just want to thank the men for cooking tonight. It was upset. You know, I'm feeling a little tiny bit threatened, but not too much. You know, so what I'll say is y'all gotta do it again. You don't need to wait for a year for it to do it. Okay? All right. Good evening, sisters and brothers. It is with great pleasure and excitement that I welcome you each and all to this evening's commemoration and celebration of International Women's Day. Tonight's meeting is especially exciting and welcomed because in celebration of this day, we in the Detroit branch of Workers' World Party are celebrating the women of Workers' World. Not only of Workers' World Party, but the women of the world, here and now, of yesterday, today, and tomorrow. There is so much to celebrate and share with you. An incredible roster of women speakers are here tonight to share just some of the history of women warriors in struggle. Definitely a cause to celebrate. I join on this podium women comrades and friends without whom I would be adrift, rudderless, perhaps destined to no real life's direction and purpose, except now for having found Workers' World Party and so many brave, determined, and incredible women. Black, Latin, white, Native, Palestinian, Puerto Rican, Jewish, African, just women who stand beside me and with me in the struggle of our lives for the ultimate victory of our class, the working class, seeking domination and destruction, and I mean that, of the ruling class, the bourgeois class of bosses and bankers and warmongering imperialists. So many women have stepped outside of the box and sought for and found a different road to travel, and wholeheartedly and with sure-footed determination embrace a different direction, a new path, a new and unequivocal road to change, the road to socialism and a new epoch of social, political, and economic evolution for the working class of this country and the world. In the America in which I grew up, racism and oppression ruled the day. And there was not a week that went by that I did not read of the murder of some black man or youth by the predominantly white police force. Usually they met their deaths by shots to the head or back, and it was always justified by them as necessary. Cultural genocide was not just happening in the Deep South. It was across the length and breadth of this land, the so-called land of the free and home of the brave. Maybe not. Life's realities for communities of color were murder and mayhem, poverty, unemployment, and social economic deprivations. Acts of violence were perpetrated on our communities at the will of the ruling class. There were places where blacks could not go. There are amusement parks, community parks, neighborhoods into which we could not venture. There were schools which were segregated, jobs which we could not seek, hospitals and public places where services to blacks just did not happen. While the signs reading "No Niggers Allowed" were not openly displayed in America, many places remained out of the reach and access of the black and oppressed communities. My mother was a day worker, cleaning the houses of the whites who are pittance, and she, like so many other women of color, our sisters, our aunts, and grandmothers, had to take the bus, sometimes two, to the white homes in the suburbs to cook, clean, and care for the privileged class. Our communities existed in the meantime in those places which were now abandoned by the white majority, and as such were run down, dilapidated, and pest infested. But still, much love and care were poured into these areas to make them better and safer, as our communities strived to make our homes and neighborhoods as welcoming and suitable for life as was possible in urban America. Such was life. These are the realities and memories that I carried into adulthood, which shaped and determined my life as an adult black woman. I was not happy. And as they say today, how's that working for you? Well, it was not. I was supremely disturbed, haunted, and aware that something Many things were just not right. What the hell was this democracy and freedom they talked about? But which we always seemed on the fringes of. It was really quite simple. There were two Americas. The white haves and the remainder, the have-nots. The working class, an oppressed, exploited, and racially divided world in which we all lived. Sometimes something was missing, and I knew in my heart that I had to find out what it was and what I could do to make things different. Even then, things are not as they said. What was said and what was in fact real were two very different and contentious realities. When I became an adult, I challenged that. I began to challenge that. Seek out and learn just what it was that I was so conflicted by. I had taken the blinders off. It was on then. Viewing things that were embedded in the fabric of my life and the life of our class, the brutal and often deadly reality of life in the black community was frightening. The material conditions of our community was clearly oppressive, repressive, impoverished, and endlessly limiting. I knew without a doubt that I had to confront these realities, do something, make a difference, change things. Thus began my journey, a journey to find and accomplish the tools for achieving that end, for forging forward on the road to struggle against and defeat an ever-present enemy, the ruling class. In the late 1970s, I was invited to Detroit to a meeting of a group called Workers' World Party, a communist party. Ooh, scary, but nonetheless intriguing. An opportunity to confirm that the road less traveled, but the only road for us was indeed the right path. Things were beginning to look up. Well, I decided to come, and at the very first meeting, I met and came to care deeply for and took pride in knowing a grand old African-American couple, Orville and May Allen. When I saw them, heard them speak of being part of Workers' World Party with pride and how they had, during one of the harshest social and political periods of American history, joined this party, I knew there was something here for me, and there was. Shortly after meeting Orville and May, I was introduced to Percy and Carol Wheeler, another black couple who were members of the party. And for the first time, I was meeting like-minded people. People who would challenge not only racism and war, but poverty, sexism, and unemployment, would take on the ruling class head on. Despite the ages of Orva and May, then in their 70s, they would not hesitate to attend an anti-war demo or an anti-racist activities, selling or giving out the paper, or just being there to encourage the next generation in struggle for change.